Guys, I am so excited to be here tonight because many of you know that I haven't been here as much because I have a little baby at home. But so I am so excited to be here, and you guys are rocking out, and that's awesome. And it's good to see a lot of y'all tonight. But I want you to do this with me real quick before we start. I'd like for you to bow your head and pray with me as we prepare for tonight what God wants to talk to us about. God, thank you that you made beautiful things out of us. No matter who we are or what we've done, God, you're awesome and you're always there for us. And I just pray right now that you just take away distractions and that you prepare our hearts for what it is that you want to say to us tonight. And I pray that you use me and that I'll be your tool and then I'll speak to your children, just whatever you want to say. Thank you for this day in your precious name. Guys, I've got some pretty deep stuff for us to talk about tonight. But I want to kind of recap with what you guys heard from Dell last week. So last week, I know that you were in darkness and the lights were cut out and you had some candles set out. And that darkness that Dell was talking about, well, that darkness represents sin. That darkness represents our separation from God. And it's sometimes cold, sometimes desolate. And it occurs when we are separated from God. And Dell took this lighter and he lighted these little candles. And temporarily, you guys had a little bit of light. And those candles, well, those represented different things that you invested your time in, your trust in, like popularity in school and sports and relationships. But I know that eventually he showed you that those flames, they go out. And you can be left in darkness again. So what I want to talk to you about tonight is that darkness. That darkness is that separation from God, okay? And that separation is caused by sin. And a lot of you guys are thinking, sin, okay. Sin is when somebody murders somebody, or it's when they cheat on a test, or it's something really, really bad. But it's not set by the laws of the land. It's not set by the government, and it's not set by your school. That doesn't say that those things are just sins. Because sin is anything that's not pleasing to God. Sin is separation from God. Sin is a wedge that's between us and God. Sin is what causes that relationship with God to know from going from like this to be like this. Sin is that darkness. And we were created for God, or we were created by God for God. So why, you're probably thinking, okay, well, why is sin a big deal? Because we were created for Him, which is awesome. Okay? And when we drop that wedge in between us and God, we're basically saying, I don't need you, God. I can do it on my own. I don't need your help. I got this. I got my life. I got it all under control. I'm good to go. So we're basically flipping God the bird. And we're saying, I don't need your help. And that's what sin is, guys. It's not a level of what this is can be worse than something else. It's not murder is definitely worse than something else. Sin is separation from God, point blank. It's anything that's not pleasing to God. It's us not obeying God. That's what sin is. And that's why it's a big deal. Because when we live our lives that way, guys, we're not living in the light that God wants us to live in. We're not living in what He created for us to live in. Now I've got an analogy for us. Because I like things to help me remember or to trigger my memory. But, okay, so let's say that we have this roof over our heads. Well, this roof has a leak in it. And every time it rains, I get water on my floor. So what I can do is I can take these buckets can try to figure out where this leak is, and I can catch that water. And when this one fills up, I gotta get another one, another place. And I gotta clean up all this water, this mess, and I'm probably gonna get wet. And I still get this leak. And I've got this just big mess. And eventually those boards right there, they're gonna rot. And eventually I'm gonna have to get more buckets because it's gonna rain. And I'm gonna have a lot of buckets to fill up that leak. And I gotta have a lot of towels to clean up that mess. Guys, this leak that we have, that represents our separation from God. Okay? And these buckets full of water, and these rotting boards because of the water, and these towels, this mess, that represents everything that's a result of our separation from God. So those are going to be things like cheating and lying and stealing and adultery, and even in some extreme cases, murder. Those are all things that result from the fact that I have a leak in my roof. Okay, so you're thinking the easy thing is, well, just patch the roof, just fix it. And that's what we've got to figure out. We can either choose to continue to fill these buckets up and clean up this mess, so we can continue living our lives the way that it is, thinking that nothing's wrong. Or we can go to the source of the problem, which is that leak in my roof. But I've got to realize that I've got a leak in my roof before I can fix it. So I've got to realize that I have separation from God, that I was created by God, for God, and that I'm separated from Him, and I'm living in this darkness. And once I realize that, guys, some good stuff can come. But I've got to realize it, and I can't fix that roof on my own. I can't change things on my own because I got to have God's help. But I can realize it. But nothing's going to change until I realize that I've got to fix that roof. Nothing's going to change. It's up to me to realize that I have separation from God and that I need Him. So my challenge to you tonight is to examine your lives. Do you have that leak? Do you have that separation from God? And if you do, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep living your life the way that you've been living in sin? Or do you want to change it? So my challenge is to reflect on your own lives and come next week, because you're going to learn about what you can do to fix that leak. So pray with me, and then you guys are free to go. God, I just pray tonight that we will reflect on our own lives, that if we do have this leak, this separation from you, that we'll come back to you, Lord, and that we'll realize that we have a need for you. And I just pray that we'll examine our own hearts and come back next week. In your precious holy name. Amen. And I've got one quick verse that I wanted to share with you guys, and one quick point, which is Romans 3:23 says, For all have sinned, and we fall short of God's glorious standard. We're no different. All of us are sinners. So, guys, come back next week and let's figure out how we can fix it. See y'all later.